Hello and welcome to this quick video tutorial on how to create courses with my time trial system. So the first thing we want is that in our GameMode entity we want a component called RKN underscore time trial course manager component. And this is sort of the repository for scores and course configurations. And if you have that one, then we can continue to creating the actual course. So let's create an area for scenario framework. Let's call it course tutorial area. Then we are going to RKN SO2TT prefabs time trials scenario framework, and we are going to put down a course layer. And we're going to call this course tutorial. So the course layer has a few time trial specific settings. It has an ID. This is used to link it to the to these configurations. And then it has some scenario framework actions that can be triggered on different events. On schedule is when the player has started the course and the countdown starts. On cancel is when the player cancels. On finish means that successfully completed the course. And on fail is, yeah, if it fails for whatever reason. For example, if player exits a shooting position before completing a section. Alright, so our course needs a few things. So what I usually do is put down some cones to mark the starting area. Then I'm going to put down a countdown position slot. This is a box trigger. Unfortunately, box triggers cannot be previewed in Infusion Editor, so you can't actually see how big it is, but I roughly know how big it is. And the countdown position is basically where the player must be within while the countdown is starting. Otherwise, if they move out of this trigger before the countdown is ended, the course will fail. Next, we need a course control panel, or console as I'm trying to call it. I don't really have a consistent name for it. And yeah, so once we have that, we're gonna move all of this under our course. Where did I put it? Not there. Here. And then we need to start building the sections. Oh, by the way, another thing we need is a UI trigger slot. So this is basically, if players stand within this, then the time trial UI will show up. As if they are not currently running. If they're currently running a course, then it will always be there. But if they're not currently running, then if they're within this trigger, it will also show up. Alright, so let's put down a section. Also need to put this under the course layer. Alright, so tutorial section 1. So I always rename these sections because the ordering in here determines how they are, what sequence they are executed in. Alright, so for our section, let's put down some targets. Let's just create some targets here. And then we'll put down a shooting position. We will mark this up with some more cones. There. And then with these targets, we have some more options. So first of all, we have this section getter. So this is basically if we, let's put it all under the section here. So the section getter is not a normal scenario framework getter. It's one of my custom getters, which is just like the scenario framework getter, but you can pass the current entity, which means we can do, we can check, we can get entities relative to the current run, which is something I felt was missing from the vanilla scenario framework getter. So the default is just get section parent, which means it just looks for its own parent and then says, okay, I'm part of this section. So we also have dependent objective getter. So that basically means that we can tell it to only activate. So no, by default, a objective, which is a target is an objective, will activate when the section does. But we can tell it to, okay, depend on some other objective instead, and then it will only activate once this other objective has been completed. So a target is a type of objective. Another type of objective is the shooting position. So what we can do is that we can say that before this target activates, the player first needs to get to the shooting position. And it just basically, that getter basically just looks for the first shooting position it finds under the section layer. Which means this specific getter will only work if there's only one shooting position within the section. If we name this something, then we can tell this other target that we want to make the first target its dependency, and then it will only activate after we have shot this one. And thus this target will activate as soon as the course starts, which is when the section will activate. This will activate once shooter has gotten to the position, and this will activate after we have shot this target. And once all three are shot, then this section will be completed. Currently this is the only section in the course, so once we have completed this section, the course will be done. But let's look at some of the other settings we have. So we also have activation delay. So this basically means we wait some amount of seconds after we're supposed to have activated this target. So we can, for example, say 1, and that means after this has been shot, this will try to activate, but actually it will set a timer to 1 second, and then after 1 second it will then activate. We can also do other stuff, so these are scenario framework actions. If there's something you want to do once it has activated or once it has reset or finished. So we can set this as a bonus objective, which means that it becomes optional. So if this is false, then the objective is a requirement in order to complete the section. So bonus award seconds. So if this is optional, then we can say, okay, completing this objective will give you some award. Counter UI. So the UI has this counter of objectives and like how many that are remaining in the current section. And this counter is based on all the objectives that has this ticked. So for example, shooting position does not have it ticked by default, but targets do. And so only targets gets counted in the UI. So targets has hit areas. So these are defined within the actual. So if we take the actual entity, base entity, then this entity class defines some hit areas, and when it gets detects a hit, it will report that hit area, and then the slot here will decide what score we get based on that hit area. We also give some hit conditions. So for example, we can say that the player must be standing, and if this fails, then we fail the whole course. Another possible condition is rifle. Well, there's lots of possible conditions. This use the normal scenario framework condition logic. But these are two specific that are made for time trials. So required hits, this is basically how many hits you must make on the target before it is completed. I only use more than one in one place, so it's usually just one. Timeout seconds, so if this is over 0, then that is the amount of seconds after which a target is activated that it will then deactivate again. And then if it reaches timeout, then you can set a penalty. And then you can set actions for what to do on timeout. So by default, it uses a voice line called timeout. Then let's show some other targets. Let's actually make that in a different section. So we make a new section, layer, call it tutorial section 2. And for this one, we will show the movement. So the movement settings, this is basically will make the target move once it has been activated. So for example, you can move like this, or really any direction, linear direction. And that is set with this move point. So if you have this offset highlighted, then when you drag the move point. So let's say that we want to move it over here. And then we can tell it how fast it should be moving. And then we can say whether it should be a cycle, so whether it will just move to its move point and then stop, or if it will move back and forth. Let's make it move back and forth repeatedly. And then you can tell to generate tracks. So this is just when you click this, it will automatically generate tracks. Note that right now it doesn't work that well, so if I make some change, it doesn't follow, so you just need to click it again to preview it. And the tracks that are used to generate are these prefabs set down here. And then you can set some width of it and how far down it should spawn and such, just to get it correct. But if you just use the defaults here, it works perfectly. Alright, so let's bring out some words. So we have the clay target. So there's currently a bug in Fusion where it will not despawn sub-entities, sub-measures of the spawn entity, which means that as you move this around, it won't clean up the old positions. But this won't show up in game. This is only something in Fusion. It's a bit annoying. So a clay target is by default a bonus objective that by default gives 2-second award, and when you hit it, it will play a bonus voice line. And then the last target is the civilian target. This is also a bonus, aka optional objective. And then for award we just give negative in order to give penalty. And then on hit we also give a penalty voice line. Alright, let's put these two under the second section. And then I'm gonna put down a spawn point so I can spawn here. And now we nearly have a, let's actually make another section. So in a lot of courses, the final objective will be some position you have to reach, sprint to the finish line. So where's the section here? Tutorial section 3. Let's not move the spawn point. There we go. And we'll put this here, and then once this will be the final section, and then I usually like to say that, okay, when the second last has finished, then I change this line from normal sector complete to finish line, and this will make the range officer say like sprint to the finish line. Alright, now we're nearly complete. I believe the only thing we are missing now is to set up our course configuration. So let's go to our this page, we're going to config. I'm just gonna copy one that I've already made. Alright, so in the configuration, this is an instance of RKN time trial course config. We're gonna set our, that was not right spelled, our ID. This is gonna be the same as this one set on the course layer. Oh, I forgot to set it. Then we can set a name. We can set a description. This will be what will show up on the option, on the action, on the course starting console. And then we can set a competitive layout. So this is what will be given to the player once once they choose a competitive run. So it takes a prefab that will be added to inventory, the amount, and then if it's like a weapon, then you can tell to equip, and then that will be equipped immediately. And then the last options here are just the trophy thresholds. So we're gonna say 20 seconds in order to get gold, 30 seconds to get silver, and 40 seconds to get bronze. Let's save this. And then if we go to our GameMode component here, we're gonna add a new one, and then we're just gonna drag this in there, and now it is configured. Alright, I think we are ready. Let's start up and see if it works. See if we can find our spawn point. No? Hold on, did I make a mistake? Maybe I just reached maximum spawn points. Oh no, I forgot to put it into the area. It's of course has to be within an area. Because it's a scenario framework entity. Alright. Yeah, so here we can see on our report we have the spawner.
Welcome! Interact with the panel to start the course. Training rules allow you to use any loadout of your choosing, but your time will not be written down. Wait for countdown.
You can see we got an
Go!
M14. And you can see once we reach this shooting position, that one popped up. That one popped up immediately as soon as the section started. Let's shoot that, and then 1 second later, this one pops up.
Next section!
You can see we got our moving target.
Sprint to the finish!
We got our bonus target.
Good shot!
And our civilian.
Foul!
And that is our last objective.
Good shooting!
There we go. And that's how you set up a simple course.